Welcome, as Jimmy says, to Coin Geek Conference Live. All right, we're here in London. And first of all, before I'd like to thank the entire Coin Geek crew and team and Air Media team for putting this fantastic event on, and which has been very informative over the last couple of days. And what a fantastic production it is. So well done to you all. My name's Nicholas Hill, as Jimmy said, and I've been involved in the iGaming space for nearly 20 years. I've held various roles in various companies throughout those years, but the most immediate thing that I've been doing, or the most recent things I've been doing, is I've been working with providing consultancy services for a number of businesses that have been looking at ways of adopting Bitcoin technology or blockchain technology into their businesses. And that has been from sort of like payment processing and also looking at ways that blockchain can assist their businesses moving forward. So without further ado, what I'd like to do is introduce you to Lloyd Purser here, who's the COO of Funfair Technologies.
Thanks, Nick. Yes, I've also been in gaming a long time, not quite as long as you, but 15 years, so not far off. I've worked across both operations side and the B2B supplier side, big companies like Scientific Games, and then in the last 2 years, I've been working with Funfair Technologies in the blockchain space. And Funfair are a leading technology developer in that space, in the blockchain casino space. We've been operating our decentralized casino for a couple of years now, which in blockchain is a long time. So we came out with a vision. We've gone out and developed it. We'll talk a little bit more about how that helps the casino industry later. But yeah, I'm excited to be here and excited for the future of blockchain.
Great. So thank you very much for that, Lloyd. Now we can go whizzing over to our New York studio, where we have two luminaries of blockchain. We have Alex Shaw, who's the CTO and co-founder of BitBoss. We've just heard something from his partner in crime, who's Matt. But Alex, I don't know, over to you, if you can sort of let us know what you do.
Okay, yeah. Hi, Nick.
Hiya.
So as Nick said, I'm the CTO at BitBoss. And we build, we're a real money gaming software company. We have two main products, both of which are built on top of Bitcoin SV. One is a cashless casino, where players on the casino floor can instantly transfer credits on and off of a slot machine from their smartphone, which is our crypto wallet application. And secondly, and relevant to this discussion, we have a online gaming platform that, again, uses Bitcoin SV. All transactions, all bets are made with native BSV at the moment, and all bets are real transactions on the blockchain.
Okay, thank you, Alex. And joining you in New York is Phil Runman, who is the founder and CEO of Hold Gaming. So over to you, Phil.
Thanks, Nick. Oh, sorry about that. Thanks, Nick. I appreciate being able to have this platform here. Hold Gaming is a little bit of an outlier, as we really operate in the competitive skill-based gaming arena. That does not mean that we are not operating within regulated markets, or we do not intend to. It is certainly on the roadmap. But right now we function in pre-regulated markets, utilizing the laws that govern skill-based games. And we develop not only content, but are also working on our platform, which should be available next year to other game developers who are looking for easier on-ramps for payments and AML and KYC, things that we currently utilize and integrate right now, as well as fair gameplay, which is where a lot of this began in our search in the cryptocurrency world, the blockchain world. There is clearly a distinction there. And by being able to validate that fair gameplay is really what has driven our push for BSV and implementing it in several more places within our platform.
Okay, thank you very much there, Philip. We're fortunate enough to have two more panellists. We have Carl Brinkat, who is part of the Maltese Gaming Authority. So, Carl, please, over to you, and let us know what you do at the MGA.
Thank you, Nick. So, hi, I'm Carl. I've been with the MGA for 6 years, and I currently hold the post of Chief Legal and Enforcement. Part of my job is to advise government on legislation and on updates to legislation regulating gaming and gambling in Malta. And as a result of that, I have also been heavily involved in initiatives relating to both crypto and blockchain, which the MGA has undertaken in relation to their use within the regulated gaming industry.
Thank you very much, Carl. And with you, well, not with you in the studio over there, because we don't have a studio, but we've got Sam Brown, who's the CCO at Hero Gaming. So over to you, Sam.
Yes, hello everybody. Firstly, thank you very much for inviting me today. I must say that despite being a veteran of the industry, I'm very much a novice, let's say, in the world of blockchain, which is, I think, something that is perhaps common in the iGaming side of the industry. We can talk about that a bit today. I'm currently working with Hero Gaming. We are a classic iGaming operator. We run 9 different iGaming brands across the various different product verticals, with a sort of focus more primarily in the casino space. So we have been up and running for around 5 or 6 years now.
Okay, thank you very much there, Sam. So we're here today to sort of discuss, how iGaming can benefit from blockchain technology and how the industry could leverage the efficiencies of blockchain technology. But there's this sort of mystique around blockchain, because as soon as you mention blockchain within the iGaming industry, it sort of conjures up cryptocurrency, it conjures up all sorts of other aspects, maybe detrimental, maybe beneficial. But what I'd like to do, because when I spoke to Sam some time ago, we were discussing, because Sam did quite a bit of sort of research into blockchain as a technology, and how Hero Gaming, who are quite progressive within sort of the iGaming world, as a platform provider and as an operator, could use blockchain. But his first phrase or first comment to me said he was very underwhelmed after doing the research within blockchain and speaking to a number of companies. And I just wanted to understand, what makes you say, why were you so underwhelmed after conducting so much research into the adoption of blockchain technology? Sam.
Yeah, well, I mean, as you say, I mean, the only real application that we had come across, with the exception of Funfair and the guys, and having met Lloyd, but yeah, I mean, pretty much everyone had focused around cryptocurrencies and how could you use those cryptocurrencies to facilitate different types of transactions. And there were a few guys about who had created some innovative payment methods around it. But other than that, the sort of the word blockchain obviously conjures up a lot more ideas for us around transparency, around efficiencies, and there were almost no examples of that being executed in the gaming space.
Okay, so on the flip side, we've got Alex over in the US, who obviously one of the founders of BitBoss, who have been working predominantly on blockchain and specifically on the BSV chain. So can you sort of give us some of the resistance or some of the hurdles that you've had to overcome in order to sort of penetrate the gaming industry or the iGaming industry, because you're looking at a technology, or you've developed a technology that can cross both the land-based environment as well as the online environment. Can you enlighten us a little bit more, Alex?
Sure. I think the first important lesson that we learned was to not lead with blockchain being something that was the reason that we were building the platform that we have for iGaming in a certain way. It's just another technology that you need to look at and compare with similar technologies to see what the benefits are and to figure out how you can offer a more cost-effective and efficient platform using that underlying technology. But it also doesn't mean it's the only technology that you have to use, and we don't feel that we're pinned down by the fact that we're based on a public blockchain. It's just one larger tool in our toolbox. So, for example, there are a lot of efficiencies to leveraging a public network of servers, Bitcoin SV, that has a market cap of approximately $3 billion. You have you have an entire set of miners, developers, investors that are securing the network for you, and you also now have a network of servers that you can leverage without having to build up your own infrastructure. So there's sort of a lot of benefits to a public, very highly secured network that is kind of protected by default because of the large value of that network. And so that we can take those efficiencies and we can go to our customers, be it affiliates, content creators, and operators, and pitch them on the efficiencies of the platform because of how we've built on top of blockchain. So that's sort of the first angle without even really getting into the funding and how we can bet with a native cryptocurrency. But I guess I'll leave it at there for the moment.
All right. Okay. I don't know, Lloyd, have you got anything you can add there from the funfair perspective?
Yeah, absolutely. From our point of view, we are using blockchain to develop what we believe is a better system for every single actor within the supply chain, whether that be an operator, a player, an affiliate, or a game developer, for example. I truly believe that if we can get the education and the user experience as quick and as slick as it is in a Web 2.0 world, with the benefits that we can provide in blockchain, then there's only going to be one winner,
right,
which is blockchain, because of the benefits you can provide to each party are that strong that it will win out as a technology. It will take time, but
okay,
I believe that it will win out as a technology.
Right. Okay. So yeah. So moving on there from that, let's explore some more of these benefits,
yeah,
and how this can work. So going over to Philip back in the US, operating Whole Gaming. Can you explain how Whole Gaming, using blockchain, reduced any infrastructure costs or reduced your costs as an operator because you're operating skill-based games, as well as all the other tools that you've developed on the blockchain?
Sure. So we look at our first integration here, I should say, is looking at blockchain technology to be able to validate that you got a fair shake, right? In playing competitive games, peer-to-peer, you want to know that the person you played is a real person. You want to know that the ground in which we've told you is even and balanced actually existed. And so by validating that you got a fair shake, your opponent had the exact same tools that you did, allows us to remove that burden from ourselves, from having to just say, hey, trust us, believe us. It's totally fine that you had your ass handed to you by somebody on the other side of the country, and it wasn't a bot. So that's really how we look at initially utilizing BSV as a means of, again, validating fair play. And then moving on from that as a platform, looking at ways to, again, onboard those customers, minimizing the cost for AML, KYC, your OFAC checks, right? geolocation as part of that, and creating a token of when you last logged into a game, and making sure that you're not jumping around from one state to the other. These are all things that we all pay for as a means of staying compliant. While we do operate in the skill-based world, we still have an act as if protocol, meaning that even though we are not in a licensed New Jersey online casino, that is still our goal. We still want to work with the Rush Streets of the world and operate within their infrastructure. And the only way to do that is to show best practices. And these types of tools are exactly what those best practices look like.
Right. Okay, totally understand. So, go back to Lloyd here. You've been operating, Funfair, working with Funfair Technologies for a number of years now, and also operating your own Funfair casino. So, what are the aspects of provably fair content and sort of, the transparency, and sort of, if you can start to sort of touch on because I hear so much about smart contracts, sure. And how that works.
Probably best for me to start with just talking about the benefits, coming back to the benefits of each actor in any transaction. So we built an ecosystem which benefits each of those individual actors. So from a player's point of view, we've coined a phrase which is actually, or trademarked a phrase which is called guaranteed fair rather than provable fairness. Right. Because the way that our platform works is that we can guarantee a player before they even open a game that they will have a fair experience. That they do not need to trust the casino to enter into a transaction with that casino. How do we make that work? Well, we have, first of all, they come to our casino, they sign up an account. As soon as they signed up an account, they've created an Ethereum wallet address, because we're on the Ethereum blockchain. At that point, we then put them through a KYC process, and we have a process of approving specific wallet addresses that they can play. So we know that that customer's been KYC'd, they can play. If that customer then hit an AML requirement, we could also take them through that enhanced due diligence and give them the stamp that they've been through that and they can play. So we know that the customers can play. They then come, they would need to fund their account. They can fund it either through transferring cryptocurrency straight into their wallet. They can buy with fiat currency, or they could exchange another cryptocurrency within the wallet. So they funded their account. That wallet is a non-custodial wallet. So what that means is we don't have any access to the funds that are in that wallet. Only the customer has access to the funds in that wallet, not us. So when they then go and open a game, they're effectively opening a game, they're transferring the money in their wallet into the game on the blockchain, and that money is being held in escrow. The operator brings money to the game, that money is held in escrow, the game plays. Now, at no point does the casino take custody of the customer's money. Right. So the game plays. When the game closes, if the customer wins, the money goes straight back into their account, into their wallet, guaranteed. There is no concept of them saying to the casino, can I now have my money, please? Right. Because the custody is always stuck with the customer. It's never given to the casino. Now, if also they can see the result of that transaction openly on the blockchain, so that they know that it's said how much money's come in, how much money's come in on the operator, and whether they won or lost, and that the money's gone back. So they can see openly that that transaction has happened. So it can be independently verified that that was actually what happened. So they know that. So we can actually guarantee fairness to the player before they even get to the transaction, because the code will execute it in that way. If an affiliate brought that player, then we track the affiliate's wallet address into the transaction. When the player closes the game, the affiliate gets paid in real time in cryptocurrency, straight into their wallet. Again, non-custodial wallet, that's theirs. Game developers, same. If they had a commission on the game, they would be paid in real time directly to their wallet. And the operator also has freedom of movement of money straight back in and out of their wallet. So the reality is all the transactions that happen within the smart contract happen in real time. They're accurate. They can be openly investigated on the blockchain. So as you can see, it's an incredibly efficient, trustworthy, open way of conducting a gambling session.
Right. Okay. Okay. So because I know that Alex is there, and going back to you, the same question to you, Alex, is what's the experience been like with the BSV chain, as Lloyd said, he's on Ethereum, but you're utilising BSV. So how does a smart contract work when you're working on that particular blockchain?
Yeah, so there are definitely different implementations on BSV for smart contracts. We call our services that are essentially smart contracts, we call them game services. So let's take Blackjack, for example. We have a Blackjack game service. It's its own entity running off-chain that is reacting to transactions being sent to it. So a player will use native BSV from their mobile wallet, which is also has the Blackjack game embedded in it in the mobile app. They will place a bet, which will be a BSV transaction. It'll include the bet information and also the funds that they're betting. And it will be sent to that particular game service. So only that game service can see and react to that transaction on the blockchain in real time. So our Blackjack game service will immediately see that bet. It will then process the player's next move. And let's say in this example, the player is dealt Blackjack, so they win. So that game service will pull funds and send back a BSV transaction with the payout and with the bet results back to the player's wallet, and the game will react in real time and show that the player won. Their actual BSV balance in their crypto wallet will immediately increase, and they'll receive their funds. Similar to how Lloyd is explaining their provably fair gameplay, we do a similar thing on BSV. So when a game starts, basically a lock secret is given to the player. So they can then, at the end of the game, they receive the unlock secret, and they can prove mathematically that those secrets are correct and they were given the proper lock secret initially before the game even started. We bring them to a provably fair page where they can then see that the results regenerated using that private key to produce the RNG was in fact the same RNG that they experienced during the game, and we open source that entire piece of our platform so that a player or even a regulator could go and run the same code and see the results themselves.
Right. Okay. So, Carl, being part of the MGA, how do you see this smart contract working with you at as a regulator?
Smart contracts are a bit of a mixed bag for a regulator. On the one hand, as my fellow panelists have said, there are a number of benefits, especially when it comes to fairness for the players, when it comes to automated payouts, and obviously from a player protection and avoiding complaints perspective, having smart contracts where, as Lloyd was saying, the operator doesn't even have custody of the funds, avoids a lot of issues of potentially disputes, non-payments, etc. That being said, there is also a question then of adherence to certain regulatory requirements. So take, for example, under AML legislation, you need to have the possibility of, if a particular transaction elicits suspicion, you need to report that suspicion, and potentially the competent FIAU can tell you, no, freeze this payout until we investigate a bit further. And there are timeframes in multiple jurisdictions. So that would then create an issue from that perspective. So I think there are a lot of benefits. However, I also think that there needs to be adjustment on both sides. I think a lot of the times the law lags behind technology, or rather practically all the time the law lags behind technology. So there's a lot of catch up to be done from that end. Then that being said, there is also a question of the technology, when it comes to being used in a regulated sector like gambling, it needs to try and take into consideration these effects as well. So it adjusts a bit from its end as well, rather the application of the technology rather than the technology itself. So I think the two sides need to move closer to each other in order to avoid certain pitfalls.
Okay. So Phil, can you just sort of elaborate a little bit more on this contract and this smart contract from your perspective? Because we're going into this regulatory stance, and the regulator, obviously, as Carl has rightly said, technology is ahead of the legal requirements. But so how have you found things from your operational experience?
Sure. So smart contracts are a little bit further down the line from where we are right now, creating a world where two people enter into our games fully ready with BSV to compete against one another. Again, we're just not currently there yet. Our focus has been more steadily on let's get the underlying infrastructure in place. Let's allow everybody to participate. And then we can start to look at things that are very specific to as our platform grows and the different services that we'll have, such as, again, easier onboarding of payments and then implementing smart contracts from that perspective. With regards to regulation, we're always going to be ahead of it. And more than anything right now, what BSV needs is they need an ambassador. They need somebody who's working with regulators. They need somebody who's going to work with the operators, because at the end of the day, they don't evolve, or they do at a glacial-like speed, right? There is no innovation in either one of these. And if somebody is not consistently giving them a kick in the ass, it's just not going to happen.
But doesn't this lead on to sort of transparency and auditing, and and how the blockchain sort of allows more sort of the transparency? So Carl, surely this will benefit the regulator in that you can interrogate all the transactions. If you've got the right set of keys, you can look at everything. And once on the chain, it can't be removed. It's like any sort of ledger. You can change something, but there has to be a flow of information that if you're going to rectify something, this is why it's been rectified. Wouldn't that benefit you as a regulator?
Yes, from the perspective of certain objectives, definitely yes. That said, we have also seen a number of different implementations where not everything is on the blockchain, for example, either because of transaction speeds or because of one thing or another. So in that case, certain information is off-chain in a number of implementations. So the auditability, I understand the practical aspect of it, but then it does undermine slightly the auditability of each and every step of the process. However, there is definitely a benefit from a transparency perspective. It just needs to take into account other factors as well.
Right. Okay. So, Lloyd, you're operating, on chain. You've been regulated. I know that you're not regulated in the Isle of Man for Funfair Casino, but can you sort of shed some light on what some of the other regulators might be thinking, or hypothetically, what's happening out there in the iGaming world?
Yeah, I think, as Carl's alluded to, it's something that they see definite clear benefits to, and that they want to engage with. I think the technology has so much potential to make it a better, safer experience for customers, which is a key objective, obviously, for regulators. It's just so new that we're not quite there yet, right? So you've got, we can already highlight the benefits that we can give to players, affiliates, operators. But coming back to the point, as you've mentioned, Carl, in terms of anti-money laundering, and that's not exclusive to gambling, no, and that's in everything, right? So there, it's very new with the technology. There's clear benefits, and I think that the open, transparent nature of blockchain transactions can only be good. The way that you can protect customers, protect their funds, can only be good. We've, for example, one of our community members in the Funfair community created a website which analyzes our gameplay, our players by their individual wallet addresses, or how our games are performing. We had nothing to do with it. We had nothing to do with him. He basically went and scrapes this information off the blockchain, and it's updated in real time.
Right,
So,
wow.
That's a living example of how open and transparent, the
Everything
data
is.
you can achieve from the blockchain really is.
Right, okay. So, we're talking about transparency and the efficiencies here. So, from an operator's perspective that isn't currently on the blockchain, going back over to Sam in Malta, how can you see these efficiencies sort of benefiting you as an operator, that doesn't have anything on the blockchain, but maybe would like to embrace the technology?
Yeah, I think a lot of what everyone has mentioned, where obviously player security, player transparency, they're absolutely key to when you're building your brand. So of course there seem to be some obvious applications there. But if we just think about the full supply chain, when you're operating a gaming business these days, you've got payment service providers, you've got game service providers, you've got affiliates, you've got content creators, you've got so many people that are part of this ecosystem that all need to be paid. Gaming businesses take a fairly aggressive growth stance financially, which means that cash flow is always an important factor in how we're running our business from a day-to-day basis. The most obvious benefit I would see as an operator is with an immediate and free and transparent flow of payments and contracts, and allowing people to be paid. I think probably to be successful, you need to be paying on volume rather than game win, for example, just to keep it very transparent. But if you can immediately return money to your affiliates have more cash flow to generate more traffic. They generate more traffic, we get more players. If game suppliers are getting more readily and predictable cash flows into their businesses and not having to worry about a big winner at the end of the month, then smaller game studios can invest more effectively. So for me, I think the kind of removing invoicing periods and the speed of the potential transactions under a smart contract, for me, that's one of the biggest benefits from everyone on the operator side of the market.
Right. Okay. Well, thank you for that. So you just mentioned a couple of points there, sort of like speed and fees and what have you. So let's get into sort of like some of these transaction speed and low fees. How important is this to Funfair? With regards to sort of like gas prices.
Very important. We've definitely been impacted by high gas prices on Ethereum, which has been recent. I mean, when we first built our technology, we actually built some proprietary technology called a Fate channel, which is it's actually an Ethereum state channel. And what that enabled us to do is to have a customer play a slot game or a table game on our casino at the same speed with the same experience as they would through a remote gaming server. We don't have remote gaming servers, by the way. So we enabled that. But in order for us to provide the experience that we do from a trust and from a custody point of view and from a provable fairness point of view, we still write every game session onto the blockchain. And there is a cost associated to that with Ethereum as it stands. Since probably April, May this year, gas prices have increased significantly. And I think that's more than anything, probably Ethereum's been a bit of a victim of its own success in another area, which is called decentralized finance, which has exploded on Ethereum. And that's more about people being able to put assets into protocols of which they can then collateralize, leverage, and earn money from the money that they put, lend money, borrow money. There's a whole explosion of decentralized finance happening in Ethereum right now. And that has added significant congestion to the network and significant price increases. We don't see that as a permanent fixture. There are other layering solutions coming along as well, which will help with that. So it's incredibly important, absolutely, for any business. Speed and cost of transactions is incredibly important. But we're looking at this long term. This is a long-term view for us.
Right. Okay. Because I know Philip, wanted to sort of get involved in sort of this section with regards to hold gaming and the transaction costs and speed with regards to operating on BSV. So how do you find things from a whole gaming perspective, Phil?
Sure. At the end of the day, if I take a pull of a slot machine, I put 25 cents in, and it costs the operator $4 to tell the person that they got a fair shake, it's just not going to pan out. Building a bunch of infrastructure to support so you can mitigate having to pay as much as $4, but maybe it's 10 pulls and then you pay $4. Speed is of utter importance, and the cost to be able to transact is even more important. So by ensuring that I'm paying 1/100th of a penny for every single time a hand is dealt, and I can verify that this is, again, the deck that was created, the hand in which was played, and whether or not they won or they lost, that's paramount for proving, to the end consumer that they got their fair shake, right? And so you can't have those high costs. You can't have bogged down networks. It either works or it doesn't. And if it doesn't, people won't use it. And if it's too expensive, they absolutely won't use it.
Yeah. Yeah, I totally agree. So I've just been informed that we're going to take a quick break now. So we'll resume in a couple of minutes. So we're back, and so we're now going to sort of like touch on the subject of remote gaming servers, and is there a need for an RGS in the blockchain world? Lloyd mentioned earlier that they don't operate an RGS system. Maybe you can elaborate why you don't operate an RGS system for us gaming people.
When RGS is a remote gaming server, which is effectively let's call it a pipe of content that can be plugged into multiple operators and multiple applications. When we originally built and the white paper that we put together, the prototypes we put together, we built it in a decentralized way where we wanted to make sure that there was only ever two parties that were entering into this transaction, that being the house and the player. So for us to integrate a centralized database of content into the transaction was not something that we were doing at that time. It's not something that we operate. We've got probably 27, 28 games at the moment. We've got some third parties on there. We've got our own content. But the reality with that is that you do have to, you have to build the game and the game logic into the smart contract. So we've gone down a different route. There's no easy way for us just to go ahead and plug an RGS into what we've built, and it would actually compromise the original idea and the original technology that we've built. That's not to say that there isn't a place for RGS in blockchain. I think that there's always, when you say RGS, you mean content, right? There's always a place for content. It's an incredibly competitive, and there's a lot of it out there, as we were talking about earlier. So, I think there's definitely a place for remote gaming servers in blockchain. It's just how you do it.
So has that sort of impeded, Funfair Technologies in bringing on board other third-party content? Sure.
Yeah, if you are asking a content studio to do something different to what they normally do and ask their teams to learn something new, absolutely. It will impede, we're not just another integration.
Yeah.
So it does impede it. It's a balancing act, and we found that a lot in what we're doing in blockchain. There's a balancing act between saying, we want to do this to increase adoption or increase our content library, but then that is going to impact, the package that we've built and what we think is the right package for players and for everyone in the ecosystem. So undoubtedly, I think the adoption of blockchain will become more incremental. And I think, as Sam was saying, what he's looked at, he's looking at specific areas that can improve the business. And I think that's, you know, that's likely how it's going to happen. And I think, getting an RGS to operate in a blockchain environment is an important thing.
Right. Yes. So, going over to Alex, you know, obviously you mentioned that you've developed a game server or game services. Can you elaborate a little bit more on that for us, please, Alex?
Yeah, sure. So I think the way I think I'll start by talking about RGSs and how we handle them. Our pitch with our online platform is that the content creator does not have to worry about an RGS. We can take it out of the equation from their perspective. And the way we do that is we have a client-side API. They develop a game. They focus on making the game look great and on integrating with our client API. We completely abstract the blockchain. So this API that we give content creators, they are running embedded inside of our mobile app, which is also a crypto wallet, as I've mentioned before. And they get the player's balance, they place a bet, they receive the bet results, they get game history all through our client API, which behind the scenes is handling all the blockchain transaction, sending, receiving, indexing, things like that. There is an example that's worth calling out for slots where we do let the slot content creator take their math model and plug it into our slot game service. So we either run it locally with our game service somewhere in the world that no one knows the location of, or they give us an API. And from our game service, we have a simple configuration that in real time, as the slot bet is being processed, we call out to their math model in either of those cases. Pass them some RNG that's developed from the blockchain, get the results from the math model, and it becomes part of the bet result that goes back to the game client.
Okay, so I think we're learning a lot about sort of how beneficial, implementing blockchain technology into the iGaming vertical can be. But how, I'm going to open this up to everybody because I'd like all of your comments. How do you think we can engage the iGaming community? What do we need to do to get the adoption of the iGaming community? I'll start first with Lloyd because he's sitting here next to me, or socially distanced from me. So yeah, what do we need to do to sort of get adoption within our sector?
I think from my perspective, I've been speaking with lots of operators over a long period of time. We focused most of our efforts on adoption. I think adoption is key. If we can prove that the numbers are there, we can prove that the benefits are there and real, and the profits are there, that's when people are going to turn their heads. Right. At the end of the day, it's fairly straightforward. I think if you can prove traction, it doesn't have to be huge, but you've got to prove that there's traction, and then there's definitely I believe once one makes a step, then more will come. There's a term in crypto, FOMO, and I think there's a little bit of fear of missing out that will creep in because, as we've all said, innovation in some cases is lacking somewhat, and I think that this technology can be truly innovative, but it's very, very early, and we need to make those steps forward to so people can look at this commercially and say that, okay, this is going to make a difference, and we need to do it.
Yes. So, Sam, how do we go about sort of getting you as an operator onto the blockchain? What will get you to adopt blockchain technology?
I think, and as Lloyd alluded to there, it's about breaking this down into manageable chunks. If you ask anyone about, the sort of general adoption of blockchain technology in gaming, they'll just freeze up because it's big, it's scary. For people like us who have our own proprietary platform, there's a lot of financial value, residual value in that platform. And then so to suddenly have to change everything, change technology, there's just, the risk is, at this point feels too high. But I think that slowly, if you take some of these obvious opportunities and you slowly start to insert the technology, educate people about it as well, because I think, where we started the conversation today, the reality is, when you say blockchain to people in gaming, they just think about cryptocurrencies. So there is this, education piece that obviously needs to be done by whoever is providing and selling the technology to. But yeah, I think that a sort of agile approach, giving small tangible uses of the technology so that we can sort of stomach it, understand it, develop our appetite for it, is going to be the way to go, rather than one big all singing, all dancing solution. I can't see that being adopted anytime in the near future.
Okay, so Carl, from a regulator's point of view, what does the regulator require in order to sort of like say, yes, we are blockchain, centric. We're happy with it, with operators coming to us on the blockchain?
So I'd like to think we are one of the more open regulators, and I mean, we keep a very objective-based approach to regulation, so we don't really force the underlying technology. So in fact, we treat cryptocurrencies and blockchain very differently. When it comes to blockchain, we have no problem with proposals for the implementation as long as they do not prejudice the objectives that the operators need to achieve. But I think, and I'm going to take a bit of an idea from a previous panel, I was listening and one of the panelists said we need to educate regulators, and I will be the first to say that this is very true. We're always open to discussion, we're always open to learning more, and the truth is that the people involved in the industry, the people who touch the technology on a daily basis, those are the ones who have most information. And I think this communication is important. It's important that this communication is increased, because on the one hand, the regulator will not be as familiar with developments in the technology as the people who are working in it on a day-to-day basis. On the other hand, what we can do is explain our objectives. So what are we concerned about? Why are we not necessarily immediately open to something like this? And that will, on the one hand, give technology developers and operators greater clarity on what needs to be done in order for it to be completely acceptable from a regulatory perspective. And on the other hand, it might give the regulator, it might shed more light for the regulator on how things can be achieved with that particular technology, and on benefits for the regulator from that technology.
Right. Okay. And Alex, operating and running BitBoss, how do you see that we would, penetrate the industry and get the adoption that we require?
Yeah. So at BitBoss, Nick, we're very focused on making this platform real and showing that it's a fully functional platform that can meet the speed requirements, the low cost, demands, and like super low transaction fees, and therefore a viable way to operate an online casino. And really, that's been our focus, like getting everything working, establishing data formats, common data formats, which to me then kind of leads into the next step of building, and as Lloyd referred to this, with having some external party build tooling on top of their blockchain data. That to me is our next step, to look at our common data formats that we've defined for BSV gaming, and build tooling so that it exposes and builds trust in our entire platform, and kind of paves the way for us to have a much easier pitch to regulators.
Thank you. And finally, Phil, same sort of question to you. How do you feel? How will we do it from your perspective?
Sure. Again, I mentioned this earlier. What it really comes down to is that Regulators need to be at the forefront of that conversation. As Sam said earlier, the gambling industry, surprise, they don't gamble. They don't take risks. And they're not going to risk their licenses because, oh, this is a great technology, oh, it's cheaper. If BMM and GLI don't give it the thumbs up, if the regulatory bodies, the gaming commissions, if they're not all in on this before it even hits an operator's ears, it's dead on arrival. And so if we start there, if we start having ambassadors work directly, people who are in the industry who understand the benefits here, they craft legislation, they work with our senators, they work with, again, these regulatory bodies, these testing facilities, create the information that they need to better understand how it's going to benefit everybody. If we take the lead on that, then the operators will fall in line, and obviously the content creators as well, because they want that money.
Indeed, indeed, they do want that money. And yeah, just to sort of sum up, it sounds to me, and I think it sounds to everybody that we've been speaking with, and blockchain is, Bitcoin blockchain is here to stay. It's not a case of if it's going to be adopted, it's a case of when. And it all comes down to events like this because we need to educate, and educate. So a big thank you to my fellow panelists here. And a massive thank you to CoinGeek and the teams at CoinGeek and Air Media for putting this together. But we definitely need more events like this to evangelise and get blockchain technology and Bitcoin technology out there into the wider marketplace, specifically the iGaming. So thank you very much to all. Big virtual round of applause. Thank you.